Hi guys, welcome back to the channel and happy World Bee Day. Today I'm doing a bee inspired look and it's a lot of fun. So we're starting off with Serious Black and I'm just popping down a couple of layers as the base of this nail because I'm going to be doing chrome over the top, and our Serious Black is great for chrome to stick to. I'm popping that in the lamp and then just going in with the second coat. Once that's cured, I'm just taking one of our chrome powders, and this is just our gold one. I will link it down below so you can buy it. And I'm just going to put a nice generous layer of this all over the top, and once it's covered, I'm just going to buff it right down. Sometimes I use a bigger sponge just to make sure I get off all of the excess and make sure it's well buffed in as well. Once that's done, I'm taking some ultra matte coat and we're just going over the whole thing. So this nail is going to be a mix of matte and shiny in the end. So I thought I'd just protect it with the matte because I don't want to have to go in and do loads of different top coats later on this one. So I'm just taking Serious Black and I'm adding a few stripes on the bottom of the nail. So I'm just going in and doing a nice straight line across. Obviously use a longer brush and it'll really help with getting those straight lines. The shorter your brush is, the wobblier that line will end up being. So I'm just going straight across the nail and then I'm just making that line a little bit wider as well. And I'm just going in and doing a second line here, and it's going to be kind of like French tip inspired, so the stripes are only going to be on this bottom part of the nail. And again, just going in and thickening up that line. And I'm just going in and adding a third one there too. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to pop it in the lamp to cure, and then we're going on to the next nail. So I'm using Snow White and I'm just going to map out some honeycomb sections. So I'm basically just doing 2 horizontal lines and 2 angular lines on each side. I'm not making sure this is totally perfect because this is just going to get filled in and we are going to outline it and fill it in around as well. So it doesn't need to be totally perfect. And I'm just going to do 4 of these all joining up. So I'm putting the white down because I am going to be using black mainly for this nail, and I want to be able to put some honeycomb colour over the top using a jelly polish. So I want the white underneath so it's not really see-through. So I'm just going in and filling in those shapes just so that has a background for the jelly polish later. Once that's done, I'm going to pop it into cure, and then I'm taking Serious Black and I'm basically just outlining those shapes I've already done and filling in the background. So I'm going to use my fine detail brush just to go around the shape, and then I'll use the brush from the gel bottle just to go around the rest of the shape. So this nail was definitely one of those times where you have to really work out logistically what order you're going to do things in, because I'm going to be doing some chrome on here too, but it's going to be isolated chrome and there's all different sections, and then we've got jelly colours going on, so I had to really think about this. So I'll pop that into cure and I'm just doing a second coat of that now, just going around that shape again and then filling in the rest of the nail. So once that's cured, I'm taking some gel top coat nail sealer and putting a nice generous layer of this over the top of that nail. And if you've watched any of my videos before, you'll know that I love using this when I'm doing isolated chrome because it evens out all of that background. And once it's cured, I'm going to buff it down and it's going to give me a nice smooth surface. It's going to even the nail out and it's going to give me a non-stick surface for the chrome as well. Once that's buffed, I'm just taking a dusting brush and getting any of that dust off there. And then I'm taking Serious Black again and I'm just taking another fine detail brush and going back around those shapes again. But I'm going to go in between the shapes where they join up to. And this is the bit that's going to be chrome. And this is where you can just perfect that shape a little bit more. So if the white shapes aren't quite right, use that black and just add that border and it'll make it look a lot better. I've cured that, and then I'm taking that chrome powder again and just buffing that over the Serious Black we've just put on. I'm dusting off all that excess just to make sure there's no extra glitter around the nail, and then I'm going back in with Ultra Matte Coat just over the whole nail. So you just want to be careful when you're using a matte coat over chrome, because if you let it sit and then move it again, it might shift the chrome a little bit, so make sure you kind of float it on there and get it done quick. Once that's cured, I'm going in with Star Fruit, one of our jelly polishers, and just going in and filling in those shapes. I don't mind if this has a bit of a dome to it, I think it looks quite nice actually. I'm going to pop that into cure, then I'm going on to the next nail, which I've just started off in Serious Black with 2 coats of that on the background, and I'm just mattifying that nail with some Ultra Matte Coat. Once that's cured, I'm just buffing it all down, and don't do what I do and knock it off the stand all the time because it makes it really awkward for yourself, so try and keep a hold of it. Dust off all that excess, and then we're going to go back in with Serious Black. And I'm just mapping out some more honeycomb shapes. So because it's matte on the background, it makes it really easy to see what you're doing. Whereas if it was shiny, you might struggle a little bit. And also the chrome would stick to it. So I'm just going to do this all over the whole entire nail. I'm going to try and keep it as even as possible, but it's not the end of the world if it's not perfect. Once that's done, I'm going to pop it in the lamp to cure, and then I'm taking that chrome powder again and just buffing it over the whole entire nail, and it's just going to stick to those Serious Black honeycomb parts. And again, I'm just taking some clean sponge to wipe off the rest just to make sure there's no glittery particles. Next, I'm using Ultra Matte Coat and just sealing all of that in. Like I say, do this quickly and make sure to float the product above it just so you're not moving the chrome around anywhere. Next, I'm taking our nail tip gel adhesive and we're going to make a little bee. So I'm just taking a small ball of that and a silicone tool, and I've just dipped the silicone tool in some gel residue remover, and I'm just going around and shaping that into almost like a teardrop kind of shape for the bee's body. Once I'm happy with that, I have popped that into cure just to make sure it doesn't move, and then I've got an even smaller ball of that nail tip gel adhesive and we're just making a head for the bee as well. So again, take that silicone tool with some gel residue remover and just shape it into the shape you're after. So next I'm taking Sun Quenched, and this is going to be for the body of the bee, and I'm just going to fill that all in. It will need 2 coats, especially when you're doing it on a 3D shape like this. It is going to move slightly as you're putting it on, so you definitely will need 2 coats of this to make sure it's opaque. And I have got a little bit on the rest of the nail, so I'm just going to take some gel residue remover on a very small brush and just wipe that off and make sure there's none left on the rest of the nail. Once that's cured, I'm just going to go in with a second coat of Sun Quenched. I'm going to pop that into cure, then I'm taking Serious Black and I'm going to add some stripes onto the body of the bee. I'm just going to do 2 across and just trying to make sure they're even and equally spaced out. I'm just going to fill in the head of the bee as well. It does look black from this angle, but it's just clear and you can see the background, so I'm just going to go in and fill that in. Once that's cured, I'm taking Snow White and we're just going to put a little white bit on the bum of the bumblebee. Because apparently they do have that. I didn't know, but I googled it and it said they did, so I thought I'd add it on. Once that's cured, I'm taking some of our Poltergeist Builder Gel and I'm just making some little wings. So you might not be able to see here, but I do have a piece of plastic on top of my resin palette, and I just thought it'd be easier for you to see if I put the palette behind it. So I'm just making some kind of small teardrop shapes. I've just tried to figure out the size I want them before I go in and just make them as well. Once I'm happy with that shape, I'm going to cure it and then take Clear as Day Builder Gel, and we're using this as a glue essentially. So I'm just putting on a little dollop of that, and then I'm going to take some tweezers and pop the wing in there and just stick it in the lamp. Luckily it held in place on its own, but you might need to hold it with the tweezers as it goes into the lamp, and I've just done the second one as well. Next I'm taking Starfruit and we're going to add some honey drips to some of the nails. So just on one of our chrome nails, I'm just going to add a couple of dollops, and then we're going to take a fine detail brush and drag it upwards for the kind of stringy bit when things are dribbling down. So here we are, just pull that up with a really fine detail brush, and then we're going to add some honey to the top of the nail to make it look like it's dripping from there. So I find the trick with this to make it look right is to put the shape on that you want and then curve the lines at the top of those drips, and it'll make it look like it's dripping down from whatever it is at the top of the nail. And I like the fact that these have gone a bit 3D, so I thought I'd go in with a second coat just to deepen that colour a little bit and to add more of a 3D shape to it, because I think it worked really well. And I thought I'd add just a couple of droplets to the bottom of the nail too. So I'm just adding a drop of the gel polish and then just pulling it up slightly. And there's that nail pretty much there. So I thought I'd do a very similar thing to the one with the bumblebee stripe. So I do have 2 of these nails for the final set. So I'm just going to kind of do them mirrored so they're on slightly different sides of the nails. So this side's going to sit on the left side at the top, and the other one with the drips is going to sit on the right side. And I'm just going to go in and do a second coat of that again. For our nails that have a dark background, I'm going to have to go in with Snow White just to add a background so you can actually see that gel polish. Otherwise it would just look like a wet dollop of black. It won't look like it has any colour. So I'm just doing that droplet shape on there, and I'm going to do the drippy bits at the top too. And it really does show just how well pigmented our Snow White is that I'm doing this over black and I only need 1 coat of it. I'm going to pop that into cure and then do the same thing on the bee nail here. So I'm just going in at the top of the nail, and then I'm going to add some droplets too. Once they've cured, I'm doing exactly the same thing as I did on the other nails, but just going over that Snow White. So I'm just going to add on the droplet shapes, pull it up, and then add on the drippy bits at the top too. And then I'm going to go in with the second coat on both of those nails that I've just done. Once that's all done, I'm going to pop them into cure, and the last thing to do is to finish them off with some top coats. So to start off, I'm just going over all of the shiny bits on this nail in top coat because the background already has matte coat on and is protected. So I'm just going to go over the stripes and the drippy honey bit at the top as well. I'm going to do exactly the same thing on this one and just go over those drippy honey bits. The next nail is a little bit different. I'm going to go in with matte coat and go over the whole entire nail. And there's a couple of ways you could have done this, but this felt like it could have been the easier way to me, and it was the way I did it. So it worked anyway. So I'm just going to go in with some matte coat and pop that into cure, then take top coat. And I'm going round everywhere apart from the chrome. So it might seem a bit convoluted, but it did work. So I'm just going around that chrome edge and over the drippy bits, over the black section as well. And then I'm also going to fill in the honeycomb part and literally leave the chrome free. You could have gone in with top coat over the whole entire nail and just gone over the chrome. That is another option and might be easier for some people. I just decided to try it this way. I thought as well it might give me a bit more of a 3D effect on the actual honeycomb too. For this nail, I'm going in with top coat over the whole entire nail, and I'm going to pop that into cure once I'm happy with that. Make sure to not leave any of that product pooling around the 3D elements though. You want to kind of pull that product back off in those sections, and then I'm going to pop that into cure. And then we're going to be taking the ultra matte coat and a fine detail brush, and I'm just going to be going over the chrome lines around the honeycomb shape. So it's a little bit faffy. You really don't have to do this if you don't want to. You could leave it shiny, you could leave it matte. It's totally up to you. I just really fancied playing about. I'm going to pop that into cure, and that's this full nail set done. There we go, guys. I had a lot of fun creating this. I'd love to know if you create any of the techniques that I've done in this look. Please tag us in your posts. If you want any of the products I've used today, they'll be tagged down below, and we hope to see you next time, guys. Bye.